Carol.
Whoa.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your Carol Soup.
And I'm your Vice President, Renu.
This week, AT stands for Achronological Trainheist, because we'll be talking about Baccano. But before we get into it, what have you been up to, Renu? What have you been up to? It's been quite a long time since we recorded the last episode. This is kind of a it's a little late, but it's okay. We're working on it.
Yeah, we had a whole holiday between now and then.
That's true.
Yeah.
We certainly did. I kind of forgot that holiday existed because we didn't celebrate it this year, as well as the rest of you shouldn't have.
But you live at home.
I mean, yeah, we had like a in-home dinner.
Oh, that's nice.
But like we didn't get turkey or anything. We just ate like steaks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
My parents were so, I don't even know how to describe this, but basically, last year, my mom had gotten an extra turkey at some point for some reason, I guess through work or something like that,
What?
and she froze it, and they had it this year.
What? No, wait. Is that okay?
That's what I asked. I asked them if it was okay, and apparently it was fine, so...
I mean, yeah, like I guess if we're like this far out and no complications have arisen, it should be fine. I mean, I know you can freeze meat for quite a long time, but like, why?
Yeah, I don't know, but in the photo it looked good. I would have assumed that it came from the store, you know, more fresh than that.
Right.
Yeah,
I guess. Interesting.
Yeah, no, it's very, I don't know about all of that, but I guess they had it and it was fine.
I guess so.
Yeah, I also, well, I spent my Thanksgiving, apart from family just because I don't live with them, but, my roommate and I went out to eat at a socially distancing restaurant, and it was a restaurant that I had a gift card to, and it was like a fancy restaurant.
Oh,
And
nice,
so,
nice.
yeah, we had a really nice dinner with petite filet mignon instead of turkey.
Of course. Yeah. As they do in fancy restaurants.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And wine, of course.
Yeah, that sounds nice. It's like a little bit like just not comfortable enough to sit outside here. Not that I like would want to go out and eat at a restaurant anyway. Like even outdoor dining, kind of just like I can stay inside for a little longer. is where I'm at personally. But I mean, if you're gonna go out and eat at a restaurant, I hope at least it's outdoor seating. They're following the proper guidelines, etc. Sounds like you did.
Yeah, no, they definitely followed all the proper guidelines or whatever. I didn't feel uncomfortable at any point.
That's actually somewhat surprising to me, given where you live.
Yeah, no, definitely me too. Thankfully, there weren't even that many people there in the first place, so that helped.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I mean, for the most part, people here are kind of back to normal-ish, you know?
What is normal,
for better
really?
or for worse. But most stores and restaurants are supposed to only be at half capacity, so they're still maintaining that, and you're required to wear a mask and everything, so people have gotten on board with that because it's the law now. So
I don't think I'll ever understand the like anti-mask parade, because like what benefit does this give you? Really, realistically speaking, like how is it that you just really don't want to do that so much? Like you're required to wear clothes outside, like
because it impedes on your freedom and your civil liberties, and also they're mildly uncomfortable in the humidity.
Wow. What
I know.
a shame.
They can't breathe through masks, Soupy.
Can't breathe through
they can't
masks.
breathe at all. Yeah.
Anyway.
You're asking the American public to die, and that's very un-American.
Right. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed your Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else you've been up to?
I guess aside from that, it's just been preparing for the next holidays.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Lots of like holiday shopping online, and I'm preparing to take, I think maybe like 2 weeks off to drive up to visit family and stuff like that. We've all been properly quarantining, so that's been good. So I don't feel like
that's nice.
Yeah, hopefully we'll all be good there. Because I don't want to get on a plane. Like, I know people who have gone on a plane said that it's actually okay because there's not anyone flying right now and everyone's been really careful, but
it very much depends, right? Because like there's I mean, it's like a non-zero chance, obviously, which is always upsetting. But the thing about planes is you just like really don't want to travel during like peak travel times, like like the sort of days leading up to any given holiday. As long as I think you're far enough out, it should be fine. Because like plane filters tend to be quite robust, especially now that we're a decent number of months into sort of everything locking down. And as long as the plane is following proper guidelines, the chance that you'll get infected, as long as everyone is like wearing their masks or whatever. But like realistically speaking, apparently the chance of getting infected on a plane is like much less than the chance of getting into a car accident.
Oh.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not recommending that people go out and fly. But as long as you're not traveling during any like peak times, it's not as bad. Because generally speaking, the problem is not getting infected on the plane. The problem is that people are moving to and fro and they're going places, right?
Right.
So even if they're not infecting the people around them on the plane, if they are infected, they will go to their destination that is most likely not their home, or it is their home, and they will infect the people around them, right? So, yeah, it's not bad. It's not ideal, obviously. Like obviously, the ideal is you just wouldn't want to be doing any traveling whatsoever. If you're very afraid of COVID specifically, then driving in like one straight shot is obviously like the safest in that regard, but at the same time, the chance that you'll get infected on a plane that is following the proper guidelines, I must stress, which you cannot necessarily trust a plane corporation to do. The chance is lower, I think, than if you were to get into a car crash. Obviously, I mean, people get into car crashes all the time.
Yeah,
it's always been the case where air travel has always felt just inherently more dangerous than car travel, when in fact car travel is just aggressively more dangerous in every aspect.
Right.
But yeah, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
I mean, as much fun as I don't know what your sort of relationship with like visiting your family for holidays is. I mean, I've never spent my holidays away from the family, I don't think. And it's kind of like I don't really feel necessarily the need to come. I mean, Thanksgiving is like, normally we have like a family dinner. But Christmas is like, we're not really that big of a Christmas family. Like we give each other Christmas presents, but like it's not the biggest deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah.
It's mostly, we spend the holidays just kind of gathering at my parents' place because all the kids are like split up.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, we get together like once a year, and that's the time that we see each other, and then we go about our lives.
I think if I had to choose, it would probably end up being Thanksgiving.
And you get to eat and cook.
I mean, yeah. I think that more of our family just gathers during Thanksgiving. It's just
really?
like the holiday, I guess. I don't know. We've never been a huge Christmas. Like we have like Christmas lunch, and like that's kind of the extent of the festivities. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting Christmas this year, but we've never been a big Christmas family. We're always very like a very practical approach to Christmas. Like Christmas time approaches, I'm like, hey Dad, this is what I would like for my Christmas present, and he's like, okay, here it is. No waiting involved. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
All right.
Yeah, holidays. Oh God, it is like ridiculous to me that holidays are already arriving. You know, we're in the holiday season because like I've been kind of in like that days are blending together since like August, and I can't believe it's literally actually December now. That's actually ridiculous to me. I'm looking down in disbelief. I'm like, it's supposed to be summertime. Why is it so cold outside? Where did my August go?
Yeah, it has also gotten very cold here, and so I would. I'm just waiting for spring at this point.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. It doesn't get super cold around here. Like it will only ever get as cold as it is like right now, around here. Which is to say, like, we'll hit like 40 degrees at night on a cold night. So, you know, not too bad, honestly.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Could be much worse.
Yeah.
Blessed California temperatures. All right. I assume that's it. That's all you're up to.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I spent like the past 2 hours or so, setting up a futon, like a new futon frame and mattress. Just, yeah, so that's always a great time.
Nice.
Furniture assembly.
Yeah, furniture assembly.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I have been. I'm trying to think about if I've actually been up to anything since the last time I spoke to you, and like I think the answer is not really. I have since finished Yakuza 0, which is exciting.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it was good. It was really, really good. I had an absolute blast playing it. Except for the time that except for the like 15 hours I had to put into side content like mini games. I did that thing again where I was like, you know, I might as well just like finish these out. So I finished up the real estate game, and then I finished up the cabaret game, and those unlock the like unique styles for each character, and so I was like, well, I mean, it would be the most fitting if I finish the last chapter with the unique styles, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I did all of the side content all at once in like one like huge burst. I spent like 4 or 5 streams just doing it, and then I finished the game, and it was very delightful because like I had seen like I had experienced Yakuza 0 before, but the people I was playing with, or at least streaming to, hadn't. So getting to see them react to that like last post-credit scene where like Kiryu and Majima are walking up to each other, and he just like zooms in and he goes, Kiryu-chan! was it was chef's kiss amazing, just delicious, right? Like, cause like it's great when you get to show people things for the first time, and like not only showing them like the entirety of Yakuza Kiwami with Majima fucking everywhere, and then having him show up in Yakuza 0 as a playable character, very very different to how he is
different
in Kiwami, and then seeing the arc of how he goes through and like becomes that person, and then unlocking his like Mad Dog of Shimano style where he goes wee 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 wee.
Yes, very
he just
fun.
zips all around. And then having that last closing scene where he's just like Kiryu-chan was very gratifying, and it was very delightful. I'm very happy that I made my way through it.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I finished up Yakuza 0. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next in terms of streams. I think I'm gonna take a brief break to do the campaigns of the Titanfall games. Because obviously I play a lot of Apex Legends, but I've never played Titanfall, so I figured I might as well just play through the campaigns, and then like, I think people still play Titanfall too. Maybe I'll try the multiplayer like a little bit, but like probably only minimally because I don't want to get my ass handed to me by people who are like I play Titanfall 2 every day, and I have for the last 5 years, right? Because I suspect that's kind of the only subset of people left in that game. But yeah, that it sounds like a that sounds like a good time. I think after that, I'm probably gonna start Dark Souls 2.
Oh.
See how far I can get in that. And then I'll have to probably take a streaming break around the sort of end of December. But we'll see. Anyway, on the streaming front though, I've roped you into a new venture, which may or may not have started by the time this episode comes out. Hopefully we'll have started.
I'm excited. Yeah.
We are going to be playing through the Ace Attorney games together.
Yeah.
And it's going to be super fun. I'm dragging you along, obviously, because as much fun as it would be to voice every character in the game, I need a little bit of help.
I would be glad to lend my assistance wherever needed.
Right. All right. So that sounds like a good time. And hopefully that will have gone up by the time we release this episode. And you can check it out. I'll leave a link to it. Other than that, I've really not been up to much.
All right.
So why don't we get started? Why don't we start talking about Baccano? Because there is quite a lot of it. So Baccano was originally a light novel series written by Ryogo Narita and illustrated by Katsumi Enami that recounts an expansive story involving alchemy, immortality, gang wars, and serial killers set in a fictionalized Prohibition-era America. There is, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, there's no concise way to sum up the plot other than a lot of wacky shit happens on a train. You kind of had to be there. So obviously this podcast will contain a lot of spoilers. But the thing about Baccano is that while it has a plot that I'm fairly certain that the light novels actually do work chronologically, the anime itself is told non-linearly. So every episode is told out of order, and within the episode you kind of jump between a lot of the sort of various time periods that the show inhabits. Right. And it makes for a very jarring, very confusing watching experience, but also a very gratifying one, because as soon as you kind of begin to get once you're about like halfway through the series and you begin to get a sense of the timeline that you've kind of reconstructed in your mind, and like when you jump to a scene, you can kind of piece together where it's supposed to be in the narrative. It's very satisfying. It's like watching a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, you watching this show definitely feels like you are actively trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle. You kind of have to be patient with it. It's not going to spoon feed you everything, but once it starts coming together, like it starts rolling. It is
the kind of show that definitely has I will say a little bit of a slow start because of the way that it's told. It's very difficult to get into because it's jumping from like, you know, stuff that's happening to like stuff that's happening in like 1929, 1932, 1930, 1931, and it's not doing that in any kind of conceivable order necessarily. It's just kind of jumbling the pieces in front of you and gradually building your understanding of the entire timeline, which is pretty cool, honestly. I mean, I have to say, like, the thing about Baccano is that it very much reminds me of that time period, that about when it came out, really, when anime was made and like a great deal of care was put into an anime, regardless of if it was an adaptation or not, right? And that obviously isn't to say that anime nowadays sucks. It doesn't, but it has such a like it has a very old school feel to it because it is very thoroughly researched. The source material itself is very thoroughly researched, but like the anime staff themselves like went on trips to like New York and went and toured around like Manhattan, like Little Italy, like Hell's Kitchen, all those kinds of places to get a feel for the aesthetic that they wanted to capture. Which is very cool because it means that the everything has this like very grounded historical sense of place. Because even though it is a fictionalized story where there are immortal alchemists that that are vying for power and in kind of like this power struggle, there's also a lot of like meat to the setting of it, because you can tell that it's very it's very grounded, right? They know where they're writing.
Yeah, it feels so grounded that before I had actually watched this show, I'd seen a lot of, the cover art and stuff like that, clips and things like that, GIFs. And I had no idea there was any kind of like mystical immortality element to it. I thought it was just going to be like a Prohibition gang war kind of deal, right?
Right.
Little did I know.
Little
the
did
style
you know.
is very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like the whole the way that anime is like crafted is like so incredible to me, because so much time and care and attention has been put into it. Because obviously it the light novel lays a lot of the groundwork for it, because a lot of these events are very narratively dense, right?
Yeah.
There are so many moving pieces, and they all come together, and like things are happening, and it's like this anime does one of those things that I like really, really love, which is that it will show you a scene, and then it will just like show you the scene from a different perspective and like what happens on that side. So like there's that scene where like Firo is being inducted into the like Italian mob, and then he like shoots the pistol up in celebration, and then you hear, "Oh no, Isaac is dying."
Yeah. And then you don't get the context from their point of view, right? The people who got quote unquote shot until way later.
Yeah. You're in the like last couple of episodes when you're like, "Oh wait, I remember this part."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so basically the way that the plot goes is way back in ye old 1700, some alchemists made a deal with a demon to have the immortality elixir, the cure all of life, and then they became immortal. And the only way they could die is if one of their fellow immortal alchemists went and put their right hand over and just thought to themselves, "Suck." and then he would suck the other guy, and the other guy would die. And
I mean, yes, but no. But
yeah,
yes.
and then upon learning the secrets of how to create the immortality elixir, the alchemist who summons the demon Misa is like, "Oh no, we cannot give this to people. Oh, we cannot give this to people." And everyone else, all of the other alchemists that are like, "Yeah, that sounds pretty cool," except for Sazilard, who is like, "No, we have to tell people about this." And then that disagreement boils into him eating the other alchemist and being like, "You know what? Fuck whatever I was thinking before. I want power now."
Yeah, and you also when they absorb other people, they gain all of their experiences and memories and knowledge.
Right.
So this man just becomes like just a super dude.
Yep, super dude. Anyway, 200 years later, a bunch of gangs are at war, and there's some serial killers running around, and they all get on a train, and then shenanigans happen. Really, like, that's the only way to describe it. There's like so many people who want so many different things on this train, and you get to see the events of the train from every single perspective. And man, like, watching this show, I have to say, was a lot, but it was even more so because like I pretty much watched it in one go. Like, I watched 8 episodes, and then I watched the other 8 episodes in 2 days. And like it's taxing on the brain, because like this is the thing, right? Is that it is an anime that asks you to engage with it personally, right? It asks you to put the pieces together to form the narrative in your mind, because you're just being shown pieces, and you have to put them together to get the picture. And it's pretty cool. Like, I like the way that they did it too. Is they didn't necessarily just throttle you here and there between like places. They connect it thematically, or they because they also tell you what time it's happening. You get a sense for where it is. So if you can use the like years that events happen as like hooks, you can kind of like, it's a lot easier to piece it together.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But it is work.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot of work because you're managing essentially what's happening, you know, narratively, what's happening in the plot, but you're also kind of managing like who in this vast cast of characters is related to each other and how they relate to each other. And you kind of see the moments in which they meet and interact with each other. It's a very cool experience, I have to say, and it is it's very well written, I think, because I think this could not have happened without the basis of the light novel, where there are already so many characters, and because I think the light novel is also told from multiple perspectives, it doesn't have the same shocking non-linearity as the anime does, because the anime just kind of like slices and dices. It means that you kind of like or rather, it means that without a very strong kind of a basic understanding of what is happening and why, you're not really gonna get anything that makes any sense. It's fun because like it's a mystery show, right? You're watching a mystery show, but like there isn't a mystery happening, but because you're being asked to put the pieces together, for you it is a mystery, right? You're trying to uncover what happened on this train, like the disaster of this train, because you get a lot of the ending bits at the beginning, and the course of the show is figuring out how things got to that point, which is
they
very
set it up well too in the beginning, where they keep having like these prophesizing moments of how dangerous this train ride is gonna be, and how only like really special people are gonna make it out alive, like that kind of thing. Turns out, all all of the immortal people make it off the train alive, and all the lackeys die. What do you expect? I guess I was expecting
like a couple of non-immortals make it off.
Yeah, but I guess the way that they started it off, I felt like because they had such a huge ensemble cast that some of the main people were gonna die because of the way that they had set it off.
Yeah, but it turns out that most of them are immortal, so they don't die.
Yeah, exactly.
And the ones that aren't don't.
Right. And so it's like, well, I guess that's fine, I guess.
It was actually, I will say, it was very cool because you see a lot of people die in the first like minute or two, in the first episode or two.
And they are not shy about it.
Yeah, and then you find out why they're not necessarily dead.
Right.
In that case, it's because many of them are immortal. And that's interesting, right? Because you initially don't know why that's happening, and then you learn it later, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, the violence, I'd say, in the first episode was really shocking for me.
Oh, I mean, it's pretty shocking throughout. There's a lot of stuff that happens. Like a man gets his entire face caved into a moving railroad track.
Yeah. And there's a child as well that is there.
Yeah, there's
and violent things happen.
There's definitely a big like violent sort of gore content warning, because it is not shy about like, you know, fingers getting cut off and stuff like that.
But I guess that aside, I would say don't be surprised that if you watch this to be really, really confused in the beginning. It's kind of meant to be that way. I think they definitely knew that people would end up being really like, whoa, what's happening in the beginning? And then you just gotta stick through it, and eventually it'll start coming together.
I will say, what really works out about the non-linear storytelling, though, is the show kind of upfront tells you that there's not a main character, and you really feel that when you watch it, because every character that you watch the perspective of becomes the main character for that, moment. And because it's told out of order, and because you're essentially just kind of moving thematically from place to place in the timeline of like, these characters, you get to experience a lot of that development, and you get attached to a lot of the characters. In fact, you even if you don't get attached, you get invested very much so in all the characters, even though there are so many of them. Because if you like realistically think about it, like Baccano has so many characters, and I was legitimately prepared to not remember a single one of them. But I came out of that anime, and I could probably, looking at each character, tell you what their name was, which is amazing.
The intro alone is very jarring in terms of how many people they introduce to you right off the bat. Right? God. They show you a little bit of them, and then their name, and then
can I just say how much I love the intro?
The intro is a bop.
The opening is such a bop. It's like this like lighthearted like 1960s sitcom sort of vibe. It's like the Brady Bunch kind of. And then the show starts, and you're like, oh, this immortal child is getting his face caved in on the railroad. You're like, okay, all right, that's where we are, I guess. That's where we are, I guess.
Yeah, it has a way of bouncing between like really silly levity and really dark violence.
Yeah,
which is such an interesting balance.
I mean, it's one of those things that is very kind of precarious, because it can very much, you can go too far and you can make the violence make the comedy feel worthless, or you can make the comedy make the violence feel comical. But they strike a really nice balance, and I think because the tone of each character is so different, right? Like you kind of have this this like hero's journey for Jacuzzi, where he's like kind of like learning how to not be a crybaby or whatever, and like learn how to actually do things instead of like crying. And then you have the kind of like weird serial killer vibe that like Lad has. You have the kind of like mobster intrigue of some of the other characters, and then you have the kind of through line throughout all of that, which is Isaac and Miria, who are just delightful.
They're the best.
they're the best because they're good people. They're silly people. They're also criminals, but like they just steal things while dressed in silly costumes. And and like one of the episode titles is like Isaac and Miria bring smiles to the people around them, which is true. Everybody around them is like delighted. Like they're almost like this comic relief duo. Like they're very much like a Jesse and James type of like comic relief duo that persists throughout the entire show, and then like they come out okay on the other side of it, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, but there's like this nice bit of mystery to them that doesn't, like, it keeps things interesting, like, because you just learn these little tidbits every now and then about their pasts, but they never fully delve like super deep into it, and so it just kind of leaves you wanting to learn more about them because they're so fun, but you know that something's up, or you don't really necessarily know how they ended up this way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very funny that like I don't remember exactly. I think the first interaction we get with them is when they're like mining for gold.
Yes,
and you're like, oh, this is quite funny, right? But yeah, like there's a very like whimsical kind of like Gildenkratz and Rosenstern kind of vibe to them, where they just like show up and they like do things, and they like really they break the tension a lot of the times. They impact the stories in ways that like are like can't really be expected. I'm very delighted by them as characters because they're both like very silly and completely non-serious, but they're being very sincere about it, right?
Yes.
And I like that we also get a couple of moments where that proves to be important, right?
Oh, yeah.
Where the fact that Isaac and Miria are so willing to show compassion so sincerely and without any reservations whatsoever is what makes Chess decide not to explode the train in Manhattan, which is pretty cool. But like, yeah, I just like the fact that everybody around them just likes them. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, we love Isaac and Miria. They're the best.
They're really hard not to like, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very difficult to like those characters. They accidentally become immortal, and like they don't even realize it until like these are characters that are like born in the Prohibition era of America, and like it takes them 70 years to realize, wait a minute, we're not aging anymore.
The accidental immortality and their super delayed reaction to it is just priceless.
Yeah, it's very funny, and like on an interesting note, like obviously not to skip forward too much, but I do think that there is something to be gleaned from Isaac and Miria's kind of like obliviousness is bliss lifestyle, where when they become immortal, they don't change really. They're the same people to an almost comical degree. And so, like, it's very interesting because they're characters where immortality does not corrupt them. It does not make them power hungry. They don't even realize that they have it, and they're just continuing to live life the way that they want to, as sincerely as possible.
Yeah.
Also, it is just incredible that they have not gotten arrested yet.
It's their impeccable disguises, clearly.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about the animation. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
This is like top quality animation for the day.
Yeah, I had no complaints.
I had no complaints except for the fact that the place that I was watching it, which I will or will not, I can neither confirm nor deny that it was illegal. So okay, I'm gonna let you know a little secret. There is no legal way to watch Baccano on the internet. There is legitimately not a legal service with which we can watch Baccano on the internet, and like that's such a crying shame. Because like how, right? I mean, people really liked Baccano back when it came out. Like people were raving about Baccano. But it never really caught on to the degree where it had any staying power necessarily, like Durara. Like Durara, I think has kind of like this has this like staying power that Baccano for some reason doesn't, which is interesting because everybody I know who's ever seen it has loved it and would easily watch it again, and like it's just not available anywhere. You know, it's kind of like obviously somewhat different because Neon Genesis Evangelion is like the anime, but like the way that like Evangelion was not available in the West for just a super long time, like Baccano kind of fell off the radar and has never really been picked up. Like Aniplex had the license to it, but then they let it expire like a couple of years ago, and like nobody has done anything about it since, which is a shame. Like the animation is really good, but I had to watch it in like 144p, which was not ideal. So like anytime the scene got too dark, I would be like, "What's happening? I can only see pixels." It certainly doesn't pull any punches. There's lots of limbs that go flying off, lots of people getting shot in the brain. Lots of bleeding, lots of cutting, fighting, killing, all that kind of stuff. But gotta say, it looks good. Like when the characters are fighting, you're like, oh boy, they sure do be fighting.
They do be fighting. It's true.
They do be fighting. um, yeah. What studio did Baccano? I don't remember. Baccano was animated by Studio Brainsbase.
What?
Studio Brainsbase is the same studio that did Durarara, which I mean makes sense. Hotarubi no Mori E, Tonari no Kaibutsu-kun, Blood Lad. I didn't even realize this had an anime. Natsume Yujincho.
Oh.
Yeah, they do a lot of this kind of stuff. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it all looks pretty good.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Baccano has 13 episodes, but then 3 OVAs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's weird because it's one of those series where I thoroughly enjoyed, and this might be part of why it doesn't necessarily have the same staying power as something like Durarara, but like it has 16 episodes total, and that presents a complete narrative, and it's so satisfying at the end that like I would be okay if I never got a season 2.
Yeah, I would tend to agree actually. Like having watched the full series and the OVAs, I'm pretty happy with how the series turned out. It kind of like wrapped around in the end, and that's fine.
Like it's obvious that there is more narration, or like more narrative there,
sure.
and like more story. Because I'm pretty sure the light novels are still running.
Yeah,
which is
story
wild.
is so ridiculously dense that if you decided that you were interested enough to go read the light novels, they're available.
They're available for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it jumps through time periods, right? Because it's about immortals.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, hey, but yeah, it's the anime is like so good.
Yeah.
The anime is like produced so well and so spectacularly, to the point where a sequel is not necessary, even though we know there's more story.
Yeah.
And they kind of even address that in the last episode of the OVA, where they're like, well, like, do you know why stories don't need to end? And she's like, so that we can write for sequels? And he's like, no, Karori.
Yeah, no, do.
It is because it's more fun that way. And I mean, certainly to an extent that is true, but like, the narrative of Baccano, the anime, is so tightly written and so tightly produced and directed that there is no need for any more of it. Or at the very least, I would be satisfied even if there were never any more of it. I don't know how I would even begin to approach making a second season for it.
Oh
for
god, no. Yeah, I feel like the way that they approached this series was very unabashedly its own thing. It just went, marched to the beat of its own drum. It didn't necessarily care too much about following other anime trends at that time that it was released. It just kind of came in and went.
Yeah, and like that's kind of the thing, right? Where it has such a unique personality to it, as its own thing that is like separate from the light novel, which I really appreciate, because there are very few anime studios that are like willing to take and really adapt something, right?
Yeah.
It's almost very rare that we actually see something that is like a very kind of out there adaptation. I would say like Mob Psycho is kind of in that vein, but at the very least, Mob Psycho is told in the same kind of format that Mob Psycho the webcomic is. Whereas Baccano is told in this like jingle jangle order, and it's like a mystery for you to piece together, which is very fun because it doesn't tell you how to do the narrative. It shows you all of the pieces. It shows you just enough to like get a sense, and then it asks you to like to put them together, which is delightful.
Yeah, I feel like the scenes and I guess the jigsaw pieces in that way are so unique. Like they're uniquely written in that way that later on when they're referenced, you remember. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yep.
Like there's that scene very much near the beginning of the show where those guys are fucking around with like matches and oil, and they accidentally light the warehouse on fire where the immortality elixir is being produced. And then at the very end, they come back, and you're like, I remember you guys. And it's very funny
like
that they're the ones who are
experts.
just like, well, why don't we just light the immortal alchemist on fire too?
Yeah. Look, we're experts at this. We've done it before.
This anime is very unique in the sense that it is made to be an anime, and it's made to be its own kind of standalone thing, separate from the light novels. And like, I really wish more studios would be willing to do that. Obviously, you know, there's only so much you can do with like long running shows like you know, like One Piece or Gintama or the like. But I think for certain things like taking a chunk of Baccano and just like adapting it into this like weird jigsaw mystery, or like I'm trying to think of another anime that like really takes its source material and like hard adapts it for an anime format where it's like so different that it's almost unrecognizable. And I'm like kind of struggling to think of any off the top of my head. I'm sure something will come to me later, but like, yeah, I'm a big fan of the way that Baccano was produced. I gotta say, like, you can see how much work went into making it, and how much work went into making all the like set pieces and the backgrounds. It has a very like strong identity to it, which is very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, helping how strong the art itself is, the music is so good,
bruh.
It's so good. Like, really, it's like the sort of gold standard for for soundtracking, because oh my god, like,
it's really good.
It's very like it's very like period appropriate, like lots of trumpets and brass, like lots of these like kind of like piano scenes, violins and the like, and at the same time, it's very fun, and very fitting. Like, there's a lot of moments where the music does a ton of work in ramping up the tension of a scene, and it's like, again, it's like so rare for an anime to actually be directed and not just like, I just stuck the pieces of the story together in order, right? But
like I just kind of found music that just kind of fit and didn't bother anyone.
Right, but like there's a real strength to, and like not every show has to have like a really strong soundtrack, but like there is definitely something to be said about the way that the soundtrack in Baccano elevates the narrative and complements it. Sure. It feels very much scored like a film, which is very cool. And like, that would make sense because a lot of the research that went into making Baccano was watching like gangster movies and like movies about prohibition. So like that scoring probably was part of trying to recreate it. And as a result, it flows very naturally and it's very intuitive, especially if you've like, you know, lived in the West your entire life and you've grown up like watching Western movies. Like, the way that soundtracks operate here is like ingrained kind of into your brain to the point where it's like subconscious.
Right.
So it's like, it's sometimes be hard to notice like just how good the soundtrack is.
Yeah.
But like Baccano's soundtrack is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I was listening to the soundtrack before I'd even watched the anime.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very good.
It really has those like prohibition era movie like heist movie kind of vibes to it, which is like delicious.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss. Delicious. Yeah. I mean, there's not much to say that. I don't remember exactly what or who scored the soundtrack, but like, big kudos, because it's just like, I think Baccano might have the perfect soundtrack.
You think so?
I think for the show that it is, it has the perfect soundtrack. Because I'm like trying to think of a another anime that has a soundtrack that suits it so well. And I don't know, it's kind of tough for me to like think of one that fits as well as Baccano's does, because Baccano feels like a perfect fit.
Yeah, I would say so. I would have a hard time imagining a different soundtrack to this anime. Let's see. Yuki Kajiura did the
Yuki
theme song
Kajiura.
lyrics and such.
Let's see. Let's look this up. Who did the soundtrack?
Theme song lyrics, theme song composition. Sound director was Yoshikazu Iwanami, who has done just a butt ton of stuff.
The music is by Makoto Yoshimori, who has done the soundtracks for Koikaze, Gakuen Alice, Baccano, Natsume Yujincho, Durarara, Princess Jellyfish, Hotarubi no Mori A, Hamatora, and then some more Durarara stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I love Natsume Yujincho's soundtrack as well. I listen to it very often. So.
Yeah. I mean, part of this also is just like, I really just like the kind of like swingy, jazzy soundtracks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big sucker for that kind of like aesthetically, that kind of music. And yeah, I mean, I like a lot of things about Baccano, production wise. It's like, I think as an anime piece, it has been thoroughly and spectacularly produced. And
yeah.
I mean, really, I really wish more anime was produced in the way that Baccano was, where so much time and care and attention has been put into making sure that it is like an outstanding piece of media. Because God knows, like, you know, we have like 4 isekai adaptations every season.
But you love isekai.
I love isekai. I adore isekai. God, can you remember when there were only like 3 isekai shows out? That was like not that long ago. That was like 3 or 4 years ago. But like every season, you would only have like 1 isekai show.
Yep.
And like now there's like 4 or 5, and they're usually
remember when they
bad.
used to be really rare. Yep.
Well, they were really rare, but the manga were like really picking up, and that's when I was like, oh, this is gonna become a thing. Like, this is gonna be the anime thing.
Yeah.
And here we are in the isekai bubble. Although I really can't blame people for being stuck in the isekai bubble right now, considering the fact that none of us can go outside.
We need escapism.
Yeah, we really do need the escapism. Anyway, let's talk about the themes of Baccano. I mean, I feel like there is, for how well crafted of a narrative it is, there are like a few themes to talk about, but like the most of the intrigue of Baccano is in the structure of its story, I feel.
Right.
Because, like, you know, there are certainly themes about like immortality and power and like knowledge and that kind of stuff. Ultimately, like, what does it mean to be immortal, to like have that kind of power? I do like that the immortality is like very it has a condition to it where you can still be killed by other immortal people. So it at no point removes the conflict that is like base in like human struggle. So even though you are immortal and you cannot be killed by normal means, and you will not like grow older, you can still be killed by other immortal people. So as long as people have the same power, they threaten you, right?
Right.
Even though normal people don't threaten you. So like there is this anxiety around what exactly does it like what exactly do you do to ease the anxiety that you will be killed by another person who has comparable power to you?
Right. And I like that they included, I guess, Chess's side of it, where you can still feel pain as an
Mm-hmm.
immortal, and you might have been killed in a bajillion different ways, but there's still a bajillion different more, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. I would say, I liked there were themes of like redemption, like with Ennis, for example.
Mm-hmm.
She always felt terrible about her crimes, and then she kind of felt redeemed a bit by Isaac and Miria and Firo. Um, Shanae's story was more about family dynamics and what family really means to someone, and the different ways you can have family, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah. I think because they had so many different perspectives, obviously they were able to explore a lot of different themes. The Genoardo family was also an interesting exploration of family dynamics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
um I enjoyed it too because it's you have this kind of like thing, um like you have the thing, right? It's immortality, and
Mm-hmm.
it means that a lot of the questions, I guess, that your show proposes then, or that your work proposes then, is like about that kind of immortality, um which is certainly something that Baccano does explore, but I do like that everybody kind of has different answers to it, right?
Yes.
Where Szilard is just like, well, you see, we should share this knowledge, and then immediately upon slurping another human being, he's like, oh, no, 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 no. We should leverage this power for
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate gain. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he shows up later to Maiza, and he's just like, I don't actually need to slurp you anymore, but I will, because I know how to make the perfect to make the full product now. So,
Right.
but we can create a society where we control everything because we're the ones who control how to make the elixir of immortality. You have the members of Maiza's family that just kind of incidentally got roped into it, but are just like, oh, this is kind of cool, I guess. Um, you have Isaac and Miria, who are like, don't even realize that they're immortal. They just kind of keep living their blessed existence. Firo is I mean, he does kind of have that kind of like main character vibe where like the responsibility is thrust upon him, of
Yeah.
being the person who is burdened with knowledge and burdened with killing the kind of like the ostensibly the antagonist of the show.
Yeah, he takes it all in stride, though. I never really got
Yeah,
that sense of
yeah.
struggle for him, but I did think that he was pretty pivotal in helping Ennis and Maiza's stories along, like
Yeah,
helping
yeah. I
them
mean,
arrive at
that's
their
that's what's
answers.
great about the show,
Yeah.
which is that like all of the characters have so many interactions with so many of the other characters
Mm-hmm.
that like it is like each one of them is like kind of integral to the way that the story operates. And each of them can kind of like explore different things. I very much like the like friendship between Isaac and Miria and Jacuzzi.
Yeah, it was cute.
I like I like their kind of weird parent child thing with Chess. They're just like, oh, Chess, you're such a good boy.
This
um,
boy who's not really a boy.
this boy who's not really a boy, very like pride from Full Metal Alchemist feelings.
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
He turns out a little bit better though. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like what you said earlier that each of the characters kind of arrives at their own answers
Yeah, yeah.
to these
It's
questions, and yeah, it's fulfilling at the end.
it's I think it's cool because it's basically
Yeah.
a show that asks the question about like how is it to live as a human being, like whether you are an immortal human being or
Right.
just like a goofy couple of robbers,
Yeah.
or if you're somebody who has like kind of a long history of like trauma and loss, like Misa, or if you are kind of living in the shadow of your family members or the people around you, like Ennis or like Shanae. And I think it's very cool that they all have this kind of personal philosophy that is unique to them, but is also kind of tempered and changed by the people that they interact with. The fact that they each kind of learn something from meeting some of the other characters is very interesting. And I think that goes for even characters like Rail Tracer, who I know you had a hard time with Rail Tracer.
We talked about this before we started the episode, but Rail Tracer was one that like I wasn't. I do like the fact that he was in the story. He just talks a whole lot without saying a whole lot. You know what I mean? And so that's what bothered me about his character.
Yeah,
it wasn't the fact that his character existed or anything like that. Like that was fine.
I think he's very much and I think the person who wrote the story, Ryogo Narita, said as much, where Rail Tracer kind of comes in and like throws a wrench into the entire thing, just constantly. Apparently, before Rail Tracer was developed as a character, the original intention was basically to have all the characters just die.
Oh.
So like pretty much everybody would die. But since Rail Tracer was introduced, it kind of became impossible to do that. And I do think that's interesting because it kind of has this, and like they say as much in the end of the series, where it's kind of this like living story where so there is kind of this very cool sense of Baccano being this living story where the outcome of the story is more defined by how the characters interact with each other than it is a predetermined route. So like a character like Rail Tracer will come in and he will throw a wrench kind of into everything, and suddenly all of the outcomes that were predetermined have changed. And there is a lot of talk about like, curses and fate and like all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool to see this guy like writing a story, and then like he introduces a character and realizes, oh, like the story cannot end the way that I thought it would end. And then
I didn't know that, and I think sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just saying, like, kind of looking back, and he just like kind of realizes, like, oh, this is actually like a better story.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I just think it's interesting now, knowing that somehow introducing this mercenary worldwide serial killer guy prevented deaths in the story.
I mean, he certainly kills a lot of people, but yeah.
Yeah, but he kills like, the minor characters or like, the NPCs or whatever. But the fact that the main cast was supposed to die, and because he's there, they somehow live, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's because he gets lads thrown off the goddamn
train. He's the kind of character that I like do enjoy watching in a show, because he pretty much exists only to like wrench up things. Like he exists to introduce an element of chaos into an otherwise standard motion, which I always appreciate, because I think it's kind of fun.
Right.
Like I like that the entirety of Baccano is very much this like shades of gray story, where there's not necessarily a right or wrong, but there's also not necessarily like just gray. It's like shades. So there's like people trying to do what's the best, and like everybody's really trying to do their best, more or less. Some people are trying to do the worst, obviously. And it it doesn't pull that punch ever. It doesn't just say like, well, maybe they're equal. They're not really. Like, some people murder other people and some people don't. They're very clear about that. But it is very interesting that the motivations of all the characters are not only unique to those characters and not necessarily like a good or a bad motivation. They just kind of exist. And so you have these very interesting interactions, for instance, where you will have a character like Rail Tracer who you're like, I have absolutely no idea what this guy stands for. And then you have a lad who's just like, I just want to kill people who think they are unkillable. And you see those characters meet. And then you introduce a character like Shanae, who doesn't really live for herself at all. She's completely ready to die for her father. And like, you see what happens when you have like this trio of characters that like interlocks in this very interesting way. You have one that is like so past having an identity that her identity is reliant on another person, and then these other two where like one person is like, and it's like two very like self-centered people who are like, the world revolves around me, like I do whatever I want, you know, like whatever happens is because, like, you know, it is because I made it happen, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting because on the train you get to see this like clash of how all of these people live through life, and you can kind of like get an idea of what their philosophy is, even if they don't really say it out loud. So
yeah,
that's fun. It's fun. Yeah. I like that the OVAs explore some a lot of the stuff that happens after. It like really feels like this because even though sort of new material, quote unquote, is happening, it very much feels like a wrap up, that everything is ending. Because like episode 13 kind of feels like that, where because it's the end of the TV series where like you have the like quote unquote happy ending. But then episode 16 really feels like that kind of like epilogue where it really like everything gets wrapped up in a way where you feel like you're kind of at the end of where your involvement in the story needs to be.
Right. Yeah.
Because like the story doesn't need to end because it's more fun that way. But your time in like living in the story is over, and you don't need to be there anymore, which I think is like a very cool approach to things. And like I like that because of the way that the narrative is presented. Obviously jumping through time, you know, some things have to be true. Like, you know that Isaac and Miria lived to 2001. Like, you know, they lived to the year 2001.
Robbing
and they're
the
like,
whole
wait
time.
a minute, we don't age anymore. Oh, you're right. Yeah, like you know that Luck has to survive because he's immortal. You know that Firo has to survive because he's on the train, that kind of stuff. So I think that's all very cool. I think I don't quite have it straight in my head 100%, but I think there's a little bit of fun in just like how chaotic it is, and how much like you don't necessarily know unless you read like a synopsis that lays everything out in like chronological order. But yeah, Baccano is a ton of fun to watch, and I like that because the kind of central important weird thing about it is like this immortality elixir and these like immortal alchemists, that the themes kind of naturally tend to be about how people live life.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? I think that's very cool.
It is very neat, and the fact that they intentionally did the whole ensemble cast so that you could explore the different sides of that is very cool.
Yeah. I also like that it kind of like it sides with Isaac and Miria a lot, where even though you can tell that like they're not the main characters, obviously, the show gives them a lot of favor, and it I think puts a lot of stock in the way that they kind of just like live as sincerely as possible.
Mhm.
I like that there's like this line where they're talking about Isaac and Miria, and they're like, yeah, they're like that, right? Like if they were honest people, they wouldn't survive long in this world, but they're criminals. So they somehow managed to just like ek through. Um, and I also kind of I think I enjoyed the fact that because the story is like centered around um gangsters and alchemists and serial killers, you get this like real sense that all of the characters have like this kind of nuance to them. They're not good guys necessarily. They might be people trying to do good things, but like um and they might be people trying to do bad things, but like they're not necessarily good or bad people. I mean, obviously
Yeah. Mhm.
some exceptions for Mr. Laderusso, serial killer extraordinaire who just wants to kill people. But there's even moments you see where like Lad interacting with another character, and you're just like, you better win this, bud.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, even
there's
Lad has his moments.
there's
Yes.
like it is about a bunch of people who are essentially societal outcasts attempting to live as best and as brightly as they can, and
Mhm.
there is something admirable about that, even when in the case of Lad it's because he wants to kill people forever, right? But like when he's surrounded by the police and he's just like, so like, you gonna stand there, you gonna arrest me? You're like, yeah, lad, stick it to him.
Oh my god.
Stick it to the man. You might be a really very uncomfortable serial killer, but stick it to the man.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like they're all just people trying to live as best and bright as they can, and
Mhm.
there's something admirable about that in each of them. And I
Sure.
like that the characters that find that they don't have a reason to continue to be alive find that reason in other people. Other
Yeah. Mhm.
people like show them what it means to be alive, and I think that's very interesting because like in it's almost unintentional the way that the show does this, but because of the way it shows you the bonds between each characters and how those like lines connect, um you see this otherwise kind of invisible network of actions that affect each other, and it's interesting. It gives you this picture of how like we as people are all connected, and the ways in which something that we can do that is like quite minor can have lasting consequences on another person. Like for instance, again, like Isaac and Miria saving Chess, going out of their way to save Chess, being the thing that causes him to not want to explode a bomb in the middle of Manhattan, and like they don't think twice about it because
Mhm.
they don't know any differently. They only
Yeah.
know how to like live for other people and for themselves, obviously, but like they like to help other people. They like other
Yeah.
people. And I
Mhm.
like that. I like that you get the whole kind of range of criminals, I guess you could say, because like most of them are
Yeah.
criminals. But like you have people who are like definitely bad people like Lad, and definitely good people like Jacuzzi and like Isaac and Miria,
Yeah.
and like all of the sort of spectrum in between them, and I think that's very cool. There's a
Yeah.
lot that Baccano does that I think is like very, very fascinating, that
Yeah.
I'm like, when I think about it now in the context of the podcast, like I realize a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it was an interesting cast to go with, and it really carries you through the story, that even if you are having a hard time piecing things together, you still want to learn more about these characters because their character writing is so strong.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Why don't we call it there?
Yeah. I think we went
I
over
think I
basically
think
everything.
I think that was pretty good for for an episode. I mean, I feel like I feel like all the episodes we've been doing recently have been like really long. So like it's kind of a nice break to have like a little bit of a shorter like self-contained episode. Really what I should do though is I should just make myself an editing challenge and just like edit this non-linearly. Just have like pieces
Oh
of the
my
podcast come at
God.
you and you have to piece together what happens.
No.
I promise I won't do that. I promise I won't do that. That would be so much more work for me. It would not even be funny. I don't want to think about the horrendous workload that would be. But yeah, that's it, huh? That's it, huh? That's all I have to say for
Yeah.
now, at least.
Yeah.
I might have more thoughts later, but who's to say? All right. Well, who are you, and where can we find you on the internet?
I am Swan, also known as Renu. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, all that at SwanDrawn. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. I have been working on a lot of commission art, and I'm still working on that. I'll probably be working on that for like the rest of the month and into the new year.
Fun.
And yeah, you'll probably find me on Soupy stream soon when we do that Ace Attorney stuff. So that'll be fun.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. What about you, bud?
You can find me all places at Literal Soup. I've been streaming at weird hours again, and it's fun always. Like I mentioned earlier, I'll probably be going through some of the Titanfall and Dark Souls games. I think after that, I'll probably work on getting Yakuza Kiwami done, or Yakuza Kiwami 2 done rather.
Ooh.
Because I also own that game.
Yeah.
If there were a way for me to play the sort of next like 3 games in the series or whatever, that would be pretty cool. But I'm not holding out hope, to be honest. But I might at some point play the new Yakuza game that just came out, Yakuza Like a Dragon, which yeah, that looks like fun. It's wild to me that that's a turn-based RPG.
It looks like so much fun, and I read a whole documentary about. Well, I linked it in the podcast.
Yeah, I haven't gone around to watching it yet, but I'm very excited to.
Yeah. He goes into how that came about. So.
Oh, I see. All right, yeah. Because I would love to know what was going on when they proposed this.
Yes. It is very fun to hear about.
Yeah. Oh, also, it was very fun getting to play through Yakuza 0 and getting the radio stuff, the Dolce Kamiya stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because now I can do the outro better. Ikaga the showtime.
Yes.
Minasan.
Oh my god, I completely forgot about that.
Renu, it's how we end the podcast every week.
No, I mean like
month.
I forgot about playing that stuff in the game.
Oh, right. Yeah. Very delightful. That's always very fun. Anyway, so yeah, all the places at Literal Soup. I've been Twitch streaming. Renu has been gracious enough to get me some emotes and badges so that you can show your loyalty to the soup store. If you subscribe, you can get an emote of Kazuma Kiryu, woman respecter.
Yes. That one was fun to do.
Doing a little thumbs up. I'm glad. I think it's gonna take a while to get enough sub points, but like I think I want a Majima emote of some kind.
Oh my god, yes.
I need like a Kiryu-chan emote or something along those lines.
It'll be like a Majima everywhere emote.
Yeah.
Him going up to Kiryu-chan.
I love Majima. So yeah, that's me. And we'll be here for one last episode for the end of the year. It's kind of absolutely wild to me that like not only the fact that the year is almost over, which is like incredulous to me because like my brain still thinks it's like August, but the fact that like we've been doing the podcast for like 3 years now,
dude.
right?
Isn't that crazy?
We're coming up on our third anniversary of the podcast. We've gone through certainly our fair share of ups and downs. We have changed our scheduling many times, but I hope you believe me when I say every time we've done so has been for the benefit of the content.
Yes.
Even though sometimes it may not feel like it. Oh man, I swear sometimes we are a disaster. I mean, I don't blame you. I know you work like a job and stuff, but like sometimes I look at how I do and I'm like, oh god. Oh no. But anyway, we just wanted to thank everybody for sticking with us.
Mm-hmm.
It means very much a lot that you have continued to listen to us throughout this wild and turbulent time. So
yeah, man, make it through together.
So yeah, here's to what is hopefully a better year. To what is hopefully a year that we can make better.
Yeah, we have to make it better.
No more sitting here and waiting for the year to be better. We're gonna go out and make the year better. As soon as we can go outside again, that is. Until then, maybe we can all just take a little break. But yeah, the patrons. Oh, our opening is by Scotchy Network, and our ending is by Takuma Okada. And the patrons we are thanking this month are Evan Frostfall, Cheru, Magpie Mirror Test, Sean, Claire, Dylan, and Undead Uncanny. Thank you very much for supporting us.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much for supporting us. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep cost with all of the streaming services that we subscribe to, which are, by the way, terrible because none of them fucking offer Baccano. So like, what is even the point? Realistically, what is the point?
We did a whole episode on something that we don't have on our streaming services.
Yeah, it really makes you kind of like reconsider, doesn't it? I mean, whatever the case. Thank you so much for your continued support. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate everybody who listens. I believe, in that case, we will see you next time.
See you next time.
いい加減でショータイム。
さようなら。また明日ね。